Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we're going to be checking out a track from an ex named Qwiny titled Saga. And if we switch over to here, I feel the need to preface this by saying that apparently they're a composer who writes songs about exploring dungeons and role-playing games and the smell of moss and rotting corpses in those dungeons and the uneasiness of monsters that might attack at any moment. So they're more about sort of like creating a specific aesthetic with their music, like a kind of a visual image of the music and what it's describing, with Bona Kim, of course, being the composer. We're going to be listening through this track from start till finish. We're going to hear what we think. But just putting the artwork up there as well so you can check it out. But yeah, let's go. Let's do it. Instantly intriguing with the synths. It's kind of the bit crushed elements. Fantastic filtered drums in the background. And the reverb tails and filtering as well as top notch. Just a question as well, sorry to interrupt. Is that the F and F sound font? Like, is that the instrument they use for the Friday Night Funk and the audio there? Am I not mistaken? That sounds very similar to it. I like it, and I'm sorry if it's not. It just reminds me of it, that's all. Works great as a lead layer on top of this, eh? And the big crash at the end. Okay, because this was, my review of this track from an ex named Qwiny titled Saga. I enjoyed my time with it, and we're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion section of my review of this track from an ex named Qwiny titled Saga. What do I think the track is about? I'm not entirely sure about what, because there weren't lyrics within it per se. Saga, as well as what I heard from the track, I think that my impression of it is that it's about, you hear like the church organs and some of the more sort of like sort of spiritual elements there. It kind of makes you wonder whether you're going through trials in order for an upper power or something like that. I'm not quite sure. I think that there's a lot of murkiness and a lot of those sort of synth undertones there, the basses and everything like that. That kind of ascribes that we are struggling through the darkness or whatever, and maybe occasionally we get to a point where we kind of rise out of it, but then we kind of get swallowed up by the darkness again, and we're consistently trying to look for that sort of escape. I think that the track is relatively through composed there. Near the end there, you have like there's kind of like a verse chorus kind of AB structure where we go between like kind of the bass kind of distorted kind of boom, 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 and that goes AB, but then near the end we kind of have these kind of bit crushed kind of distorted elements there. We kind of it inevitably kind of stops with a big kind of crash at the end with a layer where it doesn't necessarily sound structural, as if we found a sense of resolution to it. We don't know if we found our location. Maybe we kind of just accepted we weren't going to get up to the top. I'm not quite sure. But either way, I think ultimately it's a well-written track. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on throughout there. We had interesting filtering and effects on some of the instruments, like the basses. They weren't just kind of like buzzy or kind of fuzzy. They had like kind of a bit of smoothing out in them occasionally to kind of feel like you were being weighed down by the darkness of it. We had a lot of complication, like I suppose would be the sort of the synth kind of F and F kind of style vocal chops there that were peppered throughout, and I think that they were a great bit of color in the mix there without oversaturating things. They were not only a great sort of sense of direction throughout this track for a lead element, maybe it was the person trying to sort of communicate with those above, but it also kind of inevitably led to like a great sort of groove or pace there, as well as a bit of color in the mix on top of those lower bass and drum elements there. We had some interesting drum grooves and patterns and stuff like that as well. We had a lot of interesting sort of 16th note patterns. There were some of the kind of the big, again, the kind of really kind of gritty sounding drums, the kicks, and like maybe some sort of cymbal and snare patterns. It kind of sounds a bit kind of pixel artish, kind of like kind of 8 or 16-bit kind of stuff. But I appreciate the video game aesthetic there, where we're trying to sort of like make it sound like we are in like a game like this. You can see the actual art for it if I make it big on the screen there. It's kind of like pixel art and stuff like that. I like that, and I think that darkness is it provided there, almost like you're kind of maybe the gods are losing hope in human beings or something. I'm not quite sure, but either way, you have a scene built up with contrast, peaks and troughs, dynamic range throughout there. I think that I don't think this track could be improved. I don't know how you could improve it, to be honest. I think purely to create an environment within it, they've succeeded at that. I think ultimately there's enough complexity within this to keep listeners entertained with enough variety without alienating from the original purpose of the bass line, the initial chord harmonies and progressions. There was absolutely no filler in this 2.5 minute track. Nicely between the 2 to 4 minute sweet spot there. No filler, really well phrased there, and ultimately again, as per my original comments, I don't think we found a solution to our journey that we were necessarily happy with. There's also a sped up version to this, which I assume would be a bit more sort of like intense sounding there, but I feel as if we got enough speed and rhythmic sort of diversity in the initial one to be able to sort of appreciate that. I do understand it's sort of more of a thing nowadays to have a sped up version as an alternate kind of like glimpse at it. There is a sense of tension throughout the pace at all. Again, the use of minor sort of phrasings and the minor focus and the key sig combined with some of the tension, and again the church organs, the drama there when they rise up. It's not a happy kind of occurrence there, as if we're going to go through another part of our saga. It instills a sense of dread there that I think is kind of dope, especially without like a story being told. You can feel it through the music, and in that sense it's quite effective. Yeah, the studio recording, mixing and mastering is tight. I think we did a great job here of sort of like so just before I continue, I forgot to actually read out the overall score I gave this. So I gave this track a 7.9 out of 10, which I feel is a great score. That's not including vocals due to a lack of them. You can see the scores down below if you want to sort of like look at what I especially appreciated here. All the boxes were ticked though. We managed to sort of accomplish the fundamentals within this track in a way which is very satisfying here. The production in general was tight. I think at the end it sounded like a sort of a game soundtrack or something like that. Things were nice leveled within the frequency spectrum and stereo field, and leveling of the instruments in general was great. I'm wondering, no, we didn't need more dynamic range than that. Things were nice and wide in the frequency stereo field as well. Then the music surrounded you in the headphones, nice and loud without pumping. And again, like I feel like if we had tried to sort of like make a few of the other elements a bit more pure or less kind of like grainy sounding, it might have sort of taken away from the direction they wanted to go in, and also might not have necessarily improved the track. So ultimately, I think we sort of nailed, again, we managed things in the post-production quite well, and the rest of the track was done well as well. Thank you very much for watching my review though of this track from an act named Qwiny titled Saga, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via their various social medias and a Spotify page, and stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, and see the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.